right, guys, we're live. I'm Gina Elliott and Dani Harris. We're on our 15th episode, Dani.
Wow.
I know. Well, I guess StreamYard episode. I don't know. But anyways, we were just talking about a lot of things have been going on. We've not done an episode in probably, I don't know, a week.
And what a week it's been.
Oh man.
I mean,
So you're in Louisville right now because you were working, right?
I'm in Louisville. Yes, I worked at a dental office here. I had an opportunity. I haven't worked in a long time. So a friend of mine that owns a practice invited me to work for a couple of days. And my family lives here. Most of everyone knows I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. It's been my home since I was born. Like, this is my city. I love it here. I went to school here. This is definitely home. And so right now we're kind of going through some trying times. Of course, everybody knows about the George Floyd incident, but we've had a couple of our own incidents. Breonna Taylor, some people know the name, but it's very important. She was killed by some police officers who came in her house as part of like a drug raid, and she was shot and killed while she was sleeping. But it's been a big deal here.
Yeah, I guess they were doing like a no-knock warrant, and they, from what I read from her boyfriend's statement too, they had knocked, but they don't have to have somebody answer the door. Yeah, announce themselves. And her boyfriend and her, were getting out of bed, and they were kind of traumatized and scared from the incident. Like he got his gun. He's a legal gun carrier. And after like the second knock and they were trying to get their clothes on, the police busted through the door. They thought they were being basically home invaded.
Yeah.
And
which I think anyone would. I mean,
oh, for sure. I would too. So. Especially if you've not broke the law. Like if you're a law abiding citizen, like if the police busted in on me, I'd be like, somebody's trying to rob me. That would be my first thought.
And both of them are actually have been law-abiding citizens for the most part. They don't have criminal records or anything like that. Not that matters, but
well, I mean, it's just more to their state of mind of
the panic.
They would not feel like it's police busting down their door. But I guess he fired a few shots, obviously, like I'm sure I would too. And the police fired back and shot her 8 times.
Yeah.
And
then
they
22 shots fired into the home.
Yeah, they arrested him.
Mm-hmm.
Which, man, my feelings on that is they messed up. They did a no-knock warrant at somebody's home that was not. It was a mistake. The person that they were actually looking for was already in jail. So there were so many levels. Yeah, there were so many levels to where it messed up. What I don't understand is, okay, we have like the George Floyd incident. And then we have like this man who thought that he was basically being home invaded and he fired shots. And then they arrested him for firing shots at the police.
Yeah.
And
that's a charge.
Yeah, and so, I mean, what I don't understand is like, with the George Floyd police officer, like that was very clearly, when that man died, that was very clearly murder to me. And like they did not arrest that police officer. They gave him the benefit of the doubt for like, I don't know how, I mean, it was like protests started and it was like 4 or 5 days before they ever arrested him.
That's what gives me it's horrible. But that's what's showing me that, like, us being out in the streets and being present and letting them know that this is not okay. I feel like if nobody made a scene, maybe we wouldn't have ever seen charges.
They're trying to. I mean, they tried to say it was something else that killed him already. But the thing that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around is why they arrested Breonna Taylor's boyfriend right away, like. They kept him for quite a significant amount of time.
He actually did it. The only reason he got out is because the same attorney that is representing the Ahmaud Arbery case actually figured out or learned what happened and got him out of jail.
I don't understand.
And the judge signed off on it, but otherwise he wasn't going to be able to post that bond and get out.
Yeah, I just don't understand that, why there's such a, when someone clearly makes a mistake or someone does something on accident, like, the one person is given so much benefit of the doubt versus the other person. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's clearly an issue there.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of a tough thing
And
to
it's
kind of
really
wrap your head
hard
around.
because I think the relationship between police and just civilians, like, period, has been fractured over the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
And just because of social media and stuff like that, where now we can see everything that happens, even if it's not in our city. And it's just like now it just seems like it's so often that I don't know if this is a relationship that will heal. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that all cops are bad cops, but like we're
No,
always gonna be on our toes because what if this is one of the bad cops? Like you don't
it's
really know until the situation presents itself.
and Lori Ramos says, because as civilians are regular humans, we can't make a mistake, but we break the law, there are consequences. Police officers apparently above that. Like, unfortunately, there just seemed to kind of be that feeling, and so, like, it's a really tough time right now because, like, I am not anti-police.
No, me
You know,
either. Not by any
if
means.
if something happens, like, that's who I'm calling for
Yeah.
help and assistance. So it's a really tough time because, like, there's all these things happening to where it's like, you're pro police, but you're also anti reaching above your authority, which is, I think, has a lot to do with it, because, like, there are a lot of people um, who I don't think are necessarily, like, I mean, they're protesting and they're upset about, like, the police, but I don't know that it's necessarily like, even with George Floyd, I don't know necessarily that the man, like, killed him because he was black, so much as he had a higher disregard for his life.
Like a power trip.
Yes, and it's a power trip, and so I think a lot of people are frustrated, and I know I definitely am, that, like, you're just kind of I'm getting real sick of, like, the authorities that be power tripping, telling me I can't open my fucking business, and telling me that I can't do this,
Yeah.
and telling me I can't do that. So, like, I think there's a lot of issue. It's not necessarily with the police, but there's a lot of issue with, like, the people who are supposed to be in charge and looking out for you taking advantage of their authority, and it's becoming very, like, it's making people angry, and I think that's why we're seeing a lot of protests. It's like, yes, we're protesting because he was, because of this murder, and there's a lot of injustice, but it's not just racial injustice. It's social injustice towards the people who are not in the position of authority, and it's very frustrating. It's a really tough time.
Yeah, it is. And then Donald Trump had a press conference. Did you listen to it? And he's
Well, I
saying
mean,
he's gonna have the, like, basically put the military out on us, like,
yeah.
on the people. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I don't think this is how any of this is supposed to work.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, it's the same thing with, like, Breonna Taylor. I'm certain that police officers did not bust into her house and shoot her because she's a black woman. But she got no benefit of the doubt, and, like, they overstepped and made a lot of mistakes, and then they don't want to apologize for it. It's just this thing of, like, oh, well, we let it out on bond. It's okay. Like, that's not okay.
But after we pressured,
Yeah,
and then
like,
they finally just released the 911 tape, which is, this is another part. There's such a, like, gap of, like, things we don't know that happened that night.
mm-hmm.
Because he makes a 911 call, and the 911 call sounds like he still doesn't know exactly what's going on.
I'm
so
sure.
Like, this is after he fires at someone, and now she's shot. So, like, I just want to know what was going on. Like, did they realize they messed up and try to, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really sure. But you can tell in the 911 call that he clearly didn't mean to shoot anyone.
No.
And she's shot. So, like, it's just a mass panic. But, like, why are you calling 911 if the police are right there? Or, like, if the police are there?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a very scared, and they didn't wear body cameras. So you have no idea I mean, really, you don't know what's going on.
It's just a really it's just a really tough time because it's, like I said, it's, you want to be pro police, but you want to be anti overreach of the authority. You want to be pro, you should protest, but at the same time, like, they're talking about having protests in Richmond Saturday, and people are getting kind of, they've been having protests every day in Berea, but that's the way Berea is. Like, it's a very liberal town, until it's not. But I'm very concerned that, like, they could get rowdy, and my business is right there. It's literally a mile away from, where they're going to be protesting. So, I'm very pro, like, protests. People need a voice. We just had a girl a month ago who, and this was very embarrassing for me. Like, I pushed my son to be in the JROTC program because he's very interested in military. But then their seniors in their JROTC program over at, Madison Southern started harassing a girl, mixed race. I mean, she was black and white, and sent her like the N-word 100 times in Snapchat, and we're just doing some terrible things. And she finally posted it on social media, and it went viral. And come to find out, when you talk to her, like, she's been having issues for years, and the school kind of
was listening to her.
That's just, that's the area. That's how kids are. And
but it's not.
And so it's very frustrating because, here in Madison County, they're, you get on social media and you see people saying things that you're like, man, there is a problem. And if you don't realize that there is a problem, you're in denial. I even mentioned this, like, when I talked to Kelly Patrick, that we had, a year ago, there was a lady whose English was not her first language, and she tried to join a gym, and they were like, no, for safety, if you can't speak English, you can't come here. Like, that happened right here.
I remember that. Yeah.
Like, and so to think that there aren't issues is to really be in denial. And people do need a voice. Macy Hill, the girl who was harassed at the high school, her voice was not heard for a very long time until
it really took it boiling over before.
And so I very much feel like people need a voice. They need to be able to stand up and protest and say, like, we're tired of this. But then, I'm pro, like, let's protest, but I'm also anti-riot. I don't want my business torn up. But I definitely would be much more devastated to see someone be murdered than, if my business was tore up in the process of it. Like, I would recover if my business tore down to pieces. I would not recover if one of my family members was brutally murdered in the street that way.
And so. I completely understand. Like you said, but that's another thing. Like, I don't know, like, there's just so many things that have happened, and it just, like, of course, the injustice in my city is, like, number one on my heart, because that's, like, people are dead now because of this. Right. But second of all, I know people that personally, me and a couple of people have been driving groceries to these elderly people in an area of town where the grocery store was closed and ended up being looted and stuff, and they can't get their groceries or their prescriptions that they need. So, I mean, seeing my city suffer like that is also horrible, because there's a lot of elderly that's already, like, low income area of our city, and it just, part of me was like, couldn't you guys do this to the Kroger in the east end of town? Like, those, you know what I mean? Like, those are your lawmakers. That's where they live.
I think it's a very tough time too.
I understand completely. I'm not saying that I don't understand, because I'm completely sensitive to it. But I just am kind of sad for the people in the community that are hurting because their place that they have to go shop, or the only thing that they had right there. There's only, like, one grocery store left in the West End because of just places not wanting to put up businesses there. They've closed. The government's made it really hard for businesses to open in that area of town just because of systemic racism, honestly. I don't know if you've ever heard of, like, redlining and how that used to work, but, like, that area of town in Louisville has been this way for a very long time, and it's sad for me now to sit back and like it's struggling even worse. And it I'm here in Louisville this week, and I really don't even want to go back up to Cincinnati because my heart is so much here. I'm so invested in like this. These are my people, and like my like it just feels so close to me that I've been down there every night to the protest and around people, and honestly the only good that I've really gotten from it is that I look around myself at a certain point and I'm like, wow, I'm standing next to people of every different race and nationality. There's people wearing hijabs. There's people that some people, there was some Hispanic groups there that really didn't speak a lot of English, but they understand the injustice.
Mm-hmm.
There's white people, there's black people, there's all different types of people, and they're all understanding what's happening the same way. And so it gives me a little bit of hope because I mean, people are handing out food to each other, water,
Mm-hmm.
like everyone is so cohesive in that moment that it's like, wow, we really do have a good community here, but there's something broken and we need to fix it. So like I'm
Mm-hmm.
just hoping that it doesn't get, things don't get out of control. We don't even have a chief of police right now. He
I
got
think
fired.
I think that one of the most difficult things from my perspective is that during all of this thing, the people who are suffering the most are people who are already suffering.
Exactly.
You know,
That's the
so
point. That's
it's
why it
really
hurts me to see our stuff be looted. Like I do get it, but like at the same time, so the areas that we're doing this to, this is really all they have, and so
right.
it's very irritating for me to try to understand, like,
I'm not saying. Well, I'm
I
not
have
saying that
cousins
like
and grandparents that live down there, and I'm just like, now, well, they can't. Usually, they walk and go get their medicine,
yeah.
and now they can't even walk anywhere or
I
walk
mean,
to there because it's closed and the windows are busted out.
I understand why they go that route. Like I don't like it or agree that it's the thing to do. It's been really hard to see people that try to defend their business get beat down in the street on some of those videos. um, but at the same time, like you see that the same people who are already the ones struggling are the ones who are now like in the middle of these things. But then you have the news, telling you, oh, look, these billionaires made $230 billion off of your already struggling issue of being shut down with this coronavirus. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like almost like adding insult to injury to tell you how much money people are making off
Yeah,
of your struggling. And then,
right.
insurance companies aren't paying for some of these businesses because they're a part of civil unrest. They won't pay for that. So it's really difficult, I think, to see the people who are struggling are taking and are taking out on people who are already struggling.
Yeah.
Like, can we stop
That's what
doing
I was
that?
saying. Like, dude, please go burn down the Costco. Like, burn it down. Like, I'm sure that,
Well, I
like,
don't want to burn down anything.
no, I don't want to burn down anything, but if I were to participate, I would probably head for, that side of town because that's where all of our police, like, not all of the police, but like a lot of our police officers, a lot of our lawmakers, that's where the mayor lives. Like, so it's just like, I don't know, we're affecting some people that already have it pretty bad off, and it's really disturbing to me.
Yeah.
But like I said, I get it because if my brother were to be killed and that video was not George Floyd and it was somebody in my own family, I would want to burn this place to the fucking ground.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't, I really cannot. It's a very difficult situation, and it's wild to me that we saw Corona, and now, we're part of the biggest civil rights movement since, I mean, probably in the past like 70 years. So,
I mean, it's a very difficult thing because, like I said, we've been shut down for what, 3 months, and now there's all this protesting. It's like,
everything
can
here is literally closing at 8 p.m. Last night,
can shit get any more wild?
last night I was hungry. I had gotten a haircut at 7:30, and I was like, I'm gonna stop and get some food. Literally every place was closed because of the protests, so they're closing everything at 8. And like even Walmart's, even like everything's closing. So I'm like, well, damn, I can't even get any food. But
We had to go to Lexington. We were actually supposed to do an episode yesterday. My pool tore up. My pool pump tore up, so we had to run to Lexington. I found a pool pump for sale on Facebook Marketplace. So we went to Lexington, and it took, other than being down home in Clay County, it took me a minute to realize like I've not been really out of Madison County in almost 3 months, other than when I went to see my family.
yeah.
So that was kind of nice to get out of the town a little bit. But gyms are opening up. We've seen a lot of the jiu-jitsu gyms opening up. June 1st, they're all teaching fitness classes. You've still been training.
We're up and running in Cincinnati.
Right. Well, they had that lawsuit that that the gyms won, and so they basically got to open up with none of the restrictions that we have down here.
Yeah.
A lot of places opened up.
We do have a few restrictions though at Vision.
Right. A lot of places in Kentucky went ahead and opened up on the 1st under fitness. There's still no contact. We had thought about it, and we were part of the, Kentucky United Bwjjc, and we were going to open on the 1st, but we just felt like then all of a sudden the guidelines came out. They were hidden under youth sports, but they finally came out for the 15th. We decided that instead of having our members do solo drills for a month, why not just open at the 15th when we're technically supposed to anyways, do your solo drills, and then on the 29th you can start to have contact again. I mean, it's 2 weeks to get people in there, get them 30 minutes of like refreshing ideas, and then because I just personally people are rolling who are going to roll, so I just didn't see any point in saying stop rolling in your garage gyms and come in here
and do solo work
for a month, which I think would get boring, and we didn't feel like it was going to be as conducive to the community as waiting that 2 weeks. So we're opening on the 15th, and we have some renovations we're doing, but it's getting exciting. Like there'll be 2 weeks of like solo drills. We're redoing our bathroom. We redid our desk. We've been trying to buy mats because a lot of people were shutting down, so we thought we might be able to buy some mats, but nothing so far. But we've been looking at getting some new mats for the gym and just cleaning things up a little bit, giving it a facelift. We've been there for 30 years, so facelift.
I got to, since the quarantine, me and Gina went and trained last week.
Right.
That was really fun. I think both of us have just been like chomping at the bit to like have some good girl striking and stuff like that, because she's been doing her boxing and stuff still, but I haven't been able to like MMA spar or do anything like that with anyone, and neither has she. So we went and trained in Franklin, Tennessee at Clay's, and we did a nogi class, and then we did some sparring and stuff too, just us. But
Tennessee is gonna have a tournament like on June 27th in Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
Good fight. I'm like, I mean, I'm fat, but
I'm honestly like, I really want to do it.
My son is wanting to do it, so we might. We're not sure.
Who's running
that? Good fight. Shit, I'm coughing now. Good fight. No, but I think I am a little sick because like last night, I got like, I think I ate something that's been like really bad for my stomach, because like I woke up at like 2 a.m, and got sick, and I've been I don't like ice water, but I've been craving ice water.
Huh.
Yeah, and I mean it's like I feel like hot.
Yeah.
Not a fever, like I'm not running a fever, but like I feel hot and my stomach's upset. Yeah. And I've been craving ice water, so it's really strange. I think I ate something because we went to KS3 bar or something like that to have lunch since we were in Lexington searching for pool parts.
Yeah.
And like when I think about eating like hummus or something, it kind of like turns my stomach upside down. So I think I ate something that made my stomach upset. But anyway, Shakia should be joining us soon. She has a baby. She's a brown belt under I always get his name wrong. Josh Johnson.
Mm-hmm. Is
I
that
think they're
E-Town?
yeah, E-Town. But they also have, I think, something in Bowling Green where Shannon Montgomery runs that one. But same guy owns it and is the same instructor. But she's going to be joining us. But
What?
he owns both of them. But
Josh
Shannon,
Johnson owns the place in Bowling Green?
it's the E-Town Beatdown. Yeah, I think he owns two. I think. I'm pretty sure because he owns one like in Bowling Green, and then he owns one in E-Town. He has two. I'm pretty sure. Because Shannon Montgomery runs the one in Bowling Green, and then he
Is
runs the
she
one
a
in.
short little? Does she
No,
fight?
maybe a long time ago. She's bigger than me. She's taller than me.
Oh, okay,
But
okay. I'm confusing that girl with a little girl that fights, and she fought Gina.
in Kentucky,
I thought.
from Bowling Green,
Maybe Tennessee is where she's from. Shannon. Is it Shannon?
Shannon
Okay,
Garrett.
I'm so confused.
Shannon Garrity. Yeah, the reason I know who you're talking
that's
about.
what I'm confusing the two with.
Linda's been trying to get a fight with her for years.
Why?
Because she's close to this. They're in the same weight class. She's in this area.
Yeah.
It's somebody to fight. She doesn't have a problem with her, like her on any level. It's just that she's right there in Tennessee. What's that, 3-4 hours? And you know how hard it is to find a girl your weight class, your skill.
They could easily fight or make a.
And when she's looked for fights, Linda's always kind of been like,
yeah.
But it's not worked out so far. Maybe after all the shutdown. But that's Shannon Garrity.
Gina broke her jaw real bad.
Yeah, I watched that fight. It was for the interim title when Jennifer Clausius was the actual title holder or something.
Oh yeah, because she beat a stripper. She beat that crackhead girl.
Oh,
like, remember you know what I'm talking about?
The girl who fought in the bra.
Yes.
She fought in like a negligee.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, maybe she thought.
And that's what I was like, dude, if this is a title fight, sign me up.
It was
why don't
they were doing a live feed, and she was in the back like geeking out, and Clausius was behind her filming it. It was wild. But yeah, she fought and like
drug test her. I want to know what she was on.
I mean, technically speaking, you're not even supposed to have caffeine 24 hours prior to a.
She was on meth. That was funny.
I don't know how
funny fight.
I don't know how drug tests work. Other than
have they drug tested you for Hard Rock?
Generally, I think yeah. When I fought on cards, they have drug tested me because they kind of drug test the women because you're already having to go pee on a stick, and so they're just
I had to take like 5 pregnancy tests, 1 the day before and like 2 the day of, and I'm like, I'm not pregnant. I don't know what else you want me to do.
So in general, it seems like women get drug tested a lot at like local shows because they're already having to go pee on the stick for the pregnancy test. So it's like, I've already got your urine. Let me, and I think they have to do so many as it is. I mean, I've seen drug tests done a lot. It's just, I mean, 30 days, you're already burning fat. You can put the smoke down.
Yeah. I've actually known so many guys that have failed though that I train with. I'm like, you morons.
I don't understand that because it's like
I don't either. And then one time, I'm not gonna say any names, but a guy that was on my team, they tried to like switch their pee, and they got caught.
I was there when the girl.
It was an even bigger fine.
Who's the girl that fought the transgender from Kentucky? What is her name?
There's a transgender girl in Kentucky.
No, she's from Chicago, but she fought the girl from Kentucky. Phelan Fox. She fought. She's the transgender fighter who fought from out of Chicago, and she fought Scotty Fortner.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So they fought, and then Scotty had a fight against Hannah Fitzpatrick, I think, and got there and failed the drug test. And I was there, and like shit blew up. It was wild. And I wrote at the time because like she was like mad that they drug tested her and felt that it was like wrong and embarrassed her, I think, because she failed. And then I wrote an article.
Failed for what kind of drug?
Weed. Like,
oh.
So like I was there, and then like I wrote an article about it for Bluegrass MMA because that's when I was writing a lot of their women's stuff, and like they threatened to sue me because of like HIPAA violations, and I'm like, I was there, I saw it happen.
Right, it was in front of everyone.
Like, it's not like you know they do it in private. It's very public when you take a drug test.
Yeah,
probably one of the worst things I ever saw happen when Linda fought in Oregon, and they were drug testing some people, or maybe they weren't drug testing, but you had to have blood work, and we're back there, and the doctor's like, "Hey, I got your blood work. You can't fight. You have hepatitis." And I was like, "Yeah, I got your blood work here. It says you have hepatitis. We can't allow that." And I was like, motherfucker, like that is a HIPAA violation. You just announced to the whole fucking room.
Yell that across the way.
So like I found out the guy's name, and I wrote his coach. I'm like, listen, like that was a HIPAA violation, and like that was really wrong. Like that was not the way to find out that you have hepatitis. So if you guys need me to write a statement, like I'm all in, because that was not okay. But
that's super messed up.
That's probably one of the wildest things that I've seen happen at an MMA show. I don't know.
You know Gordon Ryan has hepatitis?
No.
Yep.
Gordon Ryan. King Ryan?
Yeah.
No.
Show that they did where they made the grapplers get blood work.
Uh-huh.
He said he was born with it, but he takes like the suppressants and they've got it to where it doesn't even show up detected on a lot of tests. But like obviously you're still like he's always gonna have that, but like he can't share it right now. You know what I mean? Like when the titer is low. So he's got
chronic hepatitis, I guess. Because you can cure it.
Yeah, and so he takes medication. He has like his whole life to keep it suppressed, and he's known that he's had it. And like I guess he's told, you know, the people in his life know that he has it. And
that's wild.
He failed he couldn't do one of the shows because the doctor said that his titer wasn't low enough, which means that he would have to go on some medication to get it lower. And I guess he was arguing that the levels of where it was, he's been told that they're okay or whatever. And this doctor wasn't happy with where they were. So like, you know how he is. He posted his lab work like on the thing. It was like,
I vaguely remember that. So like,
you remember this happening?
Vaguely, now that you can have had hepatitis, and you can get cured, but it's like chicken pox. You'll always have the markers.
Yeah, exactly. But they can go back up again. Like they can, and then like there's medication that'll keep it down.
Yeah, if you have like the chronic where it reactivates.
Yeah, he was born with it, so. But yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, whenever they test them for blood stuff, it's always gonna be like a thing.
I mean, doctors can fuck you up. Like that's what happened to me in Tennessee. I was supposed to fight Jamie Milanowski, and I kept asking him like, "Listen, do I need any tests? Do I need any tests?" And they're like, "No, you're good. And like 2 weeks before the fight, they said, "Oh wait, we just realized that you have to have an exam by a neurologist. And I was like, okay, but
Yeah,
you can't.
that's insane because it's so hard to get in with a neurologist.
Yeah. So, got some of my friends to pull some strings, and I actually ended up getting into a neurologist, but he decided that because all I had to have was like this piece of paper filled out, and it was like I had to pass like 40 questions. I got one question wrong. It was because I had to drive all the way up to Norton.
That's in Louisville, right?
Okay, yeah, it's somewhere up there. I had to drive all the way up there for the exam, and so they were like, "What county are you in?" I'm like, "Oh, Jefferson, I don't know." Like I didn't know what county I was in because like I had driven 2 hours to get to a doctor, and that's the only question I missed. So technically I passed, but he decided that even though Tennessee didn't require it and didn't want it, that he was not going to pass me unless I had a CT scan. And I was like, but I don't need it. Like I don't have like all I have to do is pass this and you sign. He's like, no, I'm not gonna sign off because you're over 35 and that's how I feel. So he wouldn't pass me, and I went ahead and had the CT scan just cause. But I mean, doctors can decide that they're gonna fuck you up.
I was gonna take a fight in what is it, Tennessee? One of the states like require women to get a pap smear. And I'm like, what does this have to do with anything?
That would probably, if I'm guessing, be Ohio because Tennessee.
And I'm just like, this is like, why do guys have to go get like their prostate exam before fighting? That doesn't make any sense. Like, no,
I mean, I had to have a breast exam in Kentucky.
Like, I mean, of course, like it's good for your overall health, but like to fight, is that really necessary? Like, no, it's not.
I mean, in Kentucky, I had to have like an eye exam and a breast exam, and like I had to hop like 100 times. Like Linda Mahaliga says, my eye test I got the day of the fight after asking if she. Yeah, that happened in Oregon too. She kept asking like, "What do I need? What do I need? What do I need?" And they're like, "No, you're good, you're good, you're good." And then we get there and they're like, "Oh, you need an eye exam." She's like, "I asked you if I needed an eye exam and you told me no. I even looked it up and told you I think I do, and you said no, I'm good." So
who
we had
to
go.
Those? Who was the promotion?
I can't remember. They were pretty good, but she had to go get her eyes dilated. Like I think it was the day of the fight.
Wow.
Wild. I'm telling you.
That's kind of crazy. I think Hard Rock does a good job at letting everybody know what they need. I think he sends out a pretty clear message and email, and it's like, this is exactly what you need. Here's the papers you need to fill out. Take them to and he even gives you a list of people you can go to that will automatically send it to the commission for you. So it's like, if you don't even have a doctor, just go to this one and they'll do it for you and you're good. But I feel like Kentucky's pretty easy.
I've fought all over the United States, and I've traveled with Linda fighting all over the United States, like Colorado, Oregon, Missouri, Kansas. Like we fought everywhere. Probably the worst place I've ever fought was Ohio. It was like,
yeah, you have to wear shin guards too, don't you?
I don't know if you do anymore, but it was like the worst experience of my fighting career. And Kentucky, like I've had a lot of good experiences, but Kentucky, like fighting for Hard Rock, it's been top notch. Like Kentucky,
yeah, I mean that's all I fought for. But my experience, I didn't have any. It took me one day just to go to the doctor, get my blood work, and then it was literally just, it maybe took me 3 hours to get everything done. And then it was just waiting for them to send it to the commission. And they did it. And I just gave them a paper and they did it.
Yeah. It's Kentucky's always been really easy. Like the promoters that I've fought for have in general been pretty easy to fight for in Kentucky. Like I've had like one promoter who I just didn't care for. Is because he always just seems so biased towards like certain groups of fighters. And
like
I didn't
Valor.
care for that. Well, them too. Like that's probably another card.
Whole fucking gym on the card, and then you're like,
We've got Shakia with us.
You get picked up from the airport by another KMMA fighter.
Hey, Shakia, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
So, wanted to have you on today. You are a jiu-jitsu brown belt under Josh Johnson, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And before we get started, if you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So, like Gina stated, my name is Shakia Harris. I live in Kentucky. Right now, I live on the outskirts of Louisville. I live in Shelbyville, but I train in E-Town under Josh Johnson. I'm a brown belt. I've been training. What year is it? 2020. This will be my 10th year training. I have a after-school free jiu-jitsu kids program. I'm a special ed teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. So I do that during the school year. I've competed in international tournaments, PANs, Worlds, Abu Dhabi qualifiers, those kinds of things for years. So yeah, I guess that's my jiu-jitsu background.
You drive a lot, don't you?
Yes. So I've actually
I'm knowing just Kentucky geography because I live in Louisville. I'm like, dang, if she is going from Lexington to E-Town to Shelbyville, that's a lot.
I started training in Bowling Green, Kentucky because I attended Western. And when I graduated, I accepted a job in Lexington. So I was commuting from Lexington to E-Town multiple times a week. I did that commute for 3 or 4 years. And then this past year, we moved to Shelbyville because my fiance, he works in Louisville, and I still work in Lexington. So that's still a drive that we do. But
wow.
It's one of those things, especially as a woman and as a Black woman, when you find that fit, it's worth it to me.
Yeah.
For sure. You actually made a post, I think it was a day or two ago. I was going to look for it. And you kind of hit on that talking about your training and finding that fit, that, you've trained with people who you can tell disrespect you, and you'd share somebody else's post. Can you kind of share and elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. The gentleman in question, his name is Wayne Hayer. He trains as well. But essentially it was that, we need to, right now there's a big push in terms of calling people out. Do you guys curse on this situation?
Yeah.
I'll try not to because I'm a teacher. But, calling people out on their stuff, essentially, you're calling out community members. You're calling out, I've been calling out other teachers. I'm the only Black teacher at my school. My school is nearly 60% Hispanic, 25% Black, 25% white. And yet, I see every day how children are treated totally different just based on their race, and just the comments that people are making without any really awareness of what they're saying. So he brought up the important fact of, hey, while we're on the lane of calling people out and challenging them to step up and do better, we need to make sure that we're holding the people that we train with accountable, because there's so many people who, it's oaths this, and, you're my family, you're my sister, you're my whatever. But many of those people are using the fact that they have a Black friend to justify a lot of the hate that they're setting out. I'm not racist. I'm not prejudiced. I have a Black friend. What? You see this picture of me and Shakia, using that to kind of not have to take accountability for what they're doing. And it's something that I've really struggled with.
I struggle with that personally because I'm adopted into a family of all white people, and I'm pretty dark skinned. And I struggle with that because I have cousins and family members who are well, we love you. And I'm and they're well, my cousin's Black, my cousin's mixed, my cousin's half Black. And I'm that doesn't, I am not your excuse to be out here acting like ass,
Yes.
Do not put me into this. If that's the case, then just take me out. Because I don't want to be a part of that.
The fact of the matter is that we are exceptions for many individuals. There are people who have a certain way of thinking, but we are just the exception, and we need to be the rule, and they just got to be willing to do that work. Hey, it's not enough that you're respectful to me. When you go out, you need to show the same respect to others that you're giving to me. It's ridiculous. And I won't necessarily say avoided having some of those conversations because I've had to be super aware of the fact that, you know, if I say anything to anyone in the gym, I got to deal with the whole angry Black woman. So then I have to, you know, go about it a certain kind of a way. And that's created issues for me. When I trained in Bowling Green, I mean, I would have, because I'm the kind of person, like, you're not going to disrespect me to my face. I don't care who you are. I don't care what rank you're, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to disrespect me. It's just not going to happen. And especially in Bowling Green, I was dealing with that, and I would call guys out on it. But because I mean, like, I love my coach. I do. And there were a few times where I had to bring it to him, like, hey, you know, I do something and it's a huge deal to everyone, but a white guy on the mat can do the same thing and it's not received the same way, you know? But now I'm just to the point to where it's like, I don't really care if I come across as an angry Black woman because I am an angry Black woman. Like, I'm mad. Right?
Yeah.
I'm hot. So it's definitely, you know, I've just been a lot more proactive in terms of like, hey, you need to step up. You're not willing to. Hey, I had a lot of respect for you on the mat. Like, we're good. You keep that over there. So it'll be interesting. Like, our gym's getting ready to open up, and it'll be interesting how that affects, you know, the dynamics. But
I think that's probably a very difficult thing too, because like you're seeing so many people who are kind of being who they really are, and it's so disappointing, you know. And you know, talking about that too, like I've talked about, like my ex-husband was, you know, his whole thing was like, well, I know you're brown, but you're white enough. And so it's just it's really awkward, I think, to have those kinds of things said to your face, that like, and then also to like see it play out on social media. You're like, you know, I can see this.
Yeah, just blatant.
Do you not care? Or you know, and now once you do this irreparable damage, like how are we supposed to go back into an environment and work together when this is how I know you really feel?
Yeah,
but I'm also very glad, though. I'm also very glad to see how people really feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if that's really how you feel, I'm glad now that I know. You know, it's awkward.
I've had a hard time with people using terms like they and them. Mm-hmm. And they're speaking on people of color. Like, that's exactly, but they're not saying, they're literally saying, but they. And I'm like, no, I am they. Like, that's what I don't think you're understanding. And you're referring to a group of people, and that is me. And me and you are supposed to be friends. So that's where I have the problem. And I've had like people who say like, but you act this way. But you act this way. And I'm like, no, but you're still saying they and them. I am they and them. Like, so it's so hard to get that like through someone's head of like, you know, and I've acknowledged, and I made a post about it recently, that I've received a lot of privilege in my life. Like, I think I've received white privilege a lot because my skin isn't that dark. You know, I have brown skin, but like I was, like I said, raised in a household with white people. So when my mom went through my conferences for me, she's white. I was adopted. So my whole family, my brothers that went to the school that I ended up going to, I'm known as the little sister of them. So I think I was treated a lot differently because of that. But then if I'm alone and I'm just myself in an adult world, sometimes I'm perceived, you know, I do get the other side of the card, you know? So I was trying to show my white friends on my Facebook and stuff that like, look, I can acknowledge that I have privilege too. Like, it's not a bad thing to acknowledge that white privilege exists. Like, I understand, like there are times when I've been privileged and I get that, but I want to use this voice for something positive. Like, you can too, you know. It's just very hard. Like, this whole situation has been super hard.
I have found
on all relationships.
I posted a link to an article called White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. She actually has a book, but that PDF has like 17 pages of just like prime time content. And I found that to be exceptionally helpful in getting people who have been just oblivious to see it just from a whole, like it has changed relationships, and it's honestly like renewed my hope in a lot of people. But it's just one of those things, like, I kind of put that in people's court, like, hey, I'm gonna give you a chance. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, and then what you decide to do with that is up to you. But it's a must read.
I'm actually gonna go find that while you guys talk for a minute and see if I can't post it on the group chat.
You need like a link in the group chat. I actually have it up.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, you can post that link there. I saw that and I opened it, but I haven't had a chance to read it. It's something that I plan on reading soon. It's just with everything kind of going on, I haven't had the opportunity to. How has, I guess, that been received for you? Like with kind of deciding that you're going to call people out. Like, how has it been received, and has anything changed that you've seen so far or that you anticipate?
Yes, for sure. I encourage Black people especially to read it because the way that it's laid out, it gives you the tools to be able to have these conversations with people. And one thing that she comments on that I found especially profound was just the fact that it's not that necessarily, white people disagree with you. It's just they literally do not understand. And you can do research and you can see things on TV or whatever, but until you're dealt with the situation where when you walk out of the house, every move you make, everything you say, everything you do, how you dress is totally calculated. You can't possibly understand. So, I kind of started off vague, posting like, hey, if you're my friend, you need to check this out. And then I started to see kind of some things popping up. And then that's when I just was like, hey, if you're a teacher, and especially if you teach minority kids, you better read it. Hey, you have said some things over the years that have lit me up and have made our work environment terrible. You need to read this. Hey, I noticed this. You need to read, and I mean, it feels good to just be able to do that, just to be even if they don't get to the point where they read it or even try, I see you. So.
No, I agree with that. And that's kind of been the thing. Like I said, it's like, I'm almost glad that people are being who they really are, because it gives you kind of the opportunity to have that conversation. But of course, I don't ever want to attack somebody, but it needs to be said and it needs to be put into the face. You talk about being a teacher, you're a special education teacher, and your program with kids. How does what kind of got you into that?
So, oh gosh, what got me into that? That's a great question. I knew when I was looking for a job, I would help out every now and again with the kids program in Bowling Green and in E-Town. And I knew that's something I eventually wanted to do. When I was actually interviewing for my school, I made it known in my interview, hey, in 5 years, I want to try to have something like this. So I kind of want to know up front if you guys would be supportive of that or not, because that's a deal breaker for me. And then sure enough, by my second year, I just really was motivated. The school that I teach at is very poor, incredibly poor. Weekly, I'm buying socks and shoes and groceries, and I got kids coming to my classroom to brush their teeth and floss. It's an incredibly poor school, and especially with the behaviors that I see, I'm just like, God, if you could just train, oh my gosh, it would be so helpful. So it's just kind of I'm not going to say that I was necessarily misleading, but I remember my principal going, hey, y'all aren't going to be doing takedowns. And I was like, no, of course not. No, jujitsu is it's not, no, what do you think? I kid you not. He walked in and they were doing blast double legs. They know how to fall. I was like, hey, I got this. I promise. You can trust me. I taught the kids how to fall. They're safe. Nobody's doing moves on people at recess or nothing. And then I reached out to put stuff out online about if anyone could help donate gis. So at that time I had 30 to 40 kids. And then the support just from all over the country was just amazing. I had to take a break because I got pregnant. And I did continue it, I believe, up until I was maybe 7 or 8 months pregnant. And then it just got to the point I was like, I can't breathe, y'all. Miss Harris gotta take a break. I can't breathe. But
you said something in there that you're dealing with a lot of kids who are like from a poor school, very underprivileged, and there's a lot of behavior issues and anger and things, and you felt like if they could just train, like what was it with the issues that they were having that you felt like if they could just train was the answer that would help them?
For one, the structure was huge, and once, and I got onto them about the little things, like how you sit, like down on the mat, like no shoes, like those little things, and providing that structure was huge for them. But there's something about them having the opportunity to engage in something that is just so challenging, mind-blowing, like how in the world, and like when that switch flips and they're able to shrimp now, they can throw people, they're going live, like the way it affected their self-esteem. I can't tell you how many times I would have kids, even kids who weren't in special ed, but I made it a point to have my kids that were in special ed in the program. They were my first priority, but other kids would come up to me and they're like, Ms. Harris, I'm so happy now that we have jujitsu. It just makes me so happy. Now when I'm in class, I want to do better because I'm in jujitsu. And like, it's everything,
It is. Yeah. 100%. So you mentioned that up until about 7 months of pregnancy. So, and that was going to be one of my questions, because I see it on the Women's Grappling Network forum a lot, or like you'll see pictures of somebody who is training, or people have questions like, did you train through your pregnancy, and how was that, or what kind of modification did you have to do?
Woo child. Yes, I did. I trained through the 8 months. I believe I stopped at the 9th month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, your girl was big. Your girl was big. Yeah. Whew. So honestly, it was harder at the very beginning. It was a surprise. So it was difficult because at that point, the appointments aren't so frequent, and you don't really know what you can do. Like you don't know. And I didn't want to deal with the stress and strain of like, oh man, I did this and I killed my baby. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. But essentially, I wasn't doing takedowns at the beginning, like 6-8 weeks. I wasn't doing takedowns anymore. I was real careful about like knee on belly, those kinds of things. But I still trained. And then as I would keep going to doctor's appointments and realize like, hey, like we thriving over here. It really helped. So like, I mean, I kid you not, I was 8 months pregnant doing double legs. Like,
nice.
And not necessarily like I had intended to, but you know how it is. You're trying to show somebody how to do something. It's like they're not doing it right. Oh my god. Way.
Yeah.
But I had to only roll with upper belts. There was only like a handful of blue or white belts I could trust to be like not crazy. But it got more difficult at the end because of how what's the word for like your ligaments and stuff, like my back was, oh my gosh, my back and my hips, it was just really hard recovering, but I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah.
So glad.
My son is 16, so I forget what any of that was like. It's like out of sight, out of mind, and I never wanted to do it again.
Yeah.
Your son is.
Sorry.
Your son is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I see pictures of him on Instagram. But go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of the guys, one thing I don't have a whole lot of patience for are the people that I train with that make like a lot of excuses. Like instead of practicing or doing reps, you're like, oh, I'm not flexible. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, like just shut up and try, right? So while I was pregnant, I'd be like, hey, y'all, I got like old dude is over here, up in here. If I can, you need to at least try. Like, come on. But I have taken my son with me. My fiance is fantastic. He will drive with me to E-Town. He has gone to a few classes. He wants to. And I think we're now in a situation to where Kingston's to the point where we could put him in like, something while we train. But he would hold him for me while I trained. And then there was one instance a few months ago where he was crying or screaming. I was teaching class and I could hear him. So I just had him on my hip and I'm just, teaching class.
So before we kind of wrap up a little bit, like I think I've seen something where there are wedding bells coming up.
Oh snap! Yeah, it's like one thing after another.
I'm an Instagram stalker, so.
Oh God, yeah, we're getting married, y'all. Woo, woo, woo. But we with this whole COVID-19 and everything, it's kind of and what's really interesting too is how this event has affected our wedding planning, because we're having instances where people like we want to have in our wedding are posting, I mean, vile and just deplorable things, and it's just kind of like, what do you do? I
mean, what do you do? Because like this is the situation that you're in. I don't think it's a situation that anybody expects to be in. Like, do you have anybody who's there to kind of give you advice, or are you just kind of having to figure it out? So what do you do?
Oh yeah, totally. What I've tried to lead with is like, hey, this is bothersome. Check out this article. Check out white fragility real quick, and then get back to me, and let's try to continue. And the majority of people that I have, spoken to in that way, it's yielded results. So like with this instance, like I'm experiencing it in so many different ways. I'm personally offended, absolutely. But now I'm having to figure out how to navigate and like comforting my spouse who is experiencing all of this for the first time. And he's literally like grieving. He's mourning and grieving, these relationships. He came to me a few days ago and I'm trying to keep it together, but he just came in the kitchen. He was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, what? He was like, I get online and, I remember all these times when you told me, you weren't comfortable being around certain people, or you didn't want to go to this or do that. And he's like, I'm just so sorry. I put you in all these positions with these people. Like when I see, like he's in this situation where he's seeing, like it's right there in your face, it's really challenging. It's really challenging. We have like a circle of people who we kind of like go back and forth with, like trying to figure out, how to navigate certain things. But with this person in particular, and there's been many, I just was like, hey, this is crazy. And he kind of hit me with some foolishness, like, oh, I'll take it down, but I'm just taking it down because you're offended. And I was like, you're not quite. So I tried again. I was like, hey, you're someone who like I love having my home. I want our children to play together. I thought so highly of you, so I'm going to try one more time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, instead of them, if most people would just stop, like don't just respond, like just let a message marinate for a minute and then come back. But they chose not to do that. So
I think that's one of the most difficult things is that I talked with this to somebody else about this is, with everything that's been going on, like one of the key markers of pride in the science community is that you can be presented with information and change your mind. Like that's a great thing. Wow, you can do that. But when you're getting all these different mixed messages as human beings, like that's not how we operate. Like we tend to see something, make up our mind that this is the answer, and no matter what, we will hold on to it emotionally, no matter what evidence is presented to us outside that box. And it feels like a lot of people kind of do that. I have a friend online too, and somebody will post like Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, and he can't step outside of his emotion to see that this isn't an anti anybody thing, and I think that's probably the hardest thing is like, just could you just take a step back and stop responding emotionally? And most people can't do it, and for me that's very heartbreaking.
The amount of patience that it takes to try to guide someone through that, it's beyond
exhausting.
Like it's just ridiculous. And one thing like that's happened recently, we happen to have a very close couple of friends of ours. They're an interracial couple too, but the guy is Black and the girl was white. And so like when all this started to kind of unfold, I believe it was actually the night where they murdered David McAtis, I believe is his last name, and they shut down the cell towers and nobody could text or live or do anything. And then poof, there's a dead man sitting out on the floor for 12 hours, but whatever. So it was that night we were talking, and the guy kept asking me, he was like, yeah, so what are we going to do? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, all right, so what are we going to do? I'm just like, whatever. What are we going to do? And I was so pessimistic and negative, and I just was like, it doesn't matter. Like, we can protest, we can do this, we can do that. It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change. Like, it doesn't matter. Right. I slept on it. I woke up, and I just woke up in tears because, I had to reach out to them immediately. I was just like, I was so like, I could not believe how this situation and existing this way for 30 years had just eliminated my hope. You know what I mean? Like, I'm living my life every day around this system as opposed to trying to do anything about it. And at the end of the day, like, I don't want my son to be like, my mom's getting treated bad, and instead of her doing something about it, she's just, trying to make them happy, trying to exist. Like, that's just not cool. So, like, emotionally, that's been very jarring for me. Like, the fact that, I hate to say it, but I just feel like I've allowed myself to just be beaten down to the point to where I wasn't even going to do anything about it because, you know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out how to even word it, honestly.
I kind of feel myself in the same position, and I kind of felt ashamed of myself.
Yes.
Because until to be honest with you, until Breonna Taylor, there's probably been a lot of incidents in my own city, okay? Because we know that there's been a lot of issues in Louisville with just a lot with the Louisville Metro Police in general. But until this situation happened, and it was right in front of my eyes, and this is my community, these are places that I visit. These are people that work at the same place that my friends are employed at. She worked alongside my friends. Like, this is my community. And I think that in that sense, when I realized, like, that could have been me or my apartment, I'm like, wow, why did it take this for me to be, for me to get to this point where I'm so fed up and I'm cutting off people who are like this, when I probably really could have realized some of my friends felt this way a while ago. I feel kind of ashamed of myself that I didn't start speaking out and I didn't start doing this sooner, because if you look at the list of names, we could fill up a book with the amount of people,
oh my gosh,
that this is similar things have happened to. But it wasn't until I started to see my own city be taken, until this happened here, and it's something that's so close to my heart. I can't believe that it's taken this long for me to wake up and realize what's going on.
I think ashamed is the best word to describe, especially like just the inner turmoil of just like, even if I wasn't as active as I could have been, because I know that the roots run deep, and that changing the whole thing, that's going to take many generations, but that doesn't excuse me from trying to do something, just something, even if we're just making a little bit of progress. I really have, I've tried to personally thank everyone, every white person that I've seen in my life, doing the right thing, trying. Hell, just try. Read an article or two. Like, it means so much. It really does.
I was at the protest 2 nights ago, and actually another MMA fighter, a brown belt from Derby City, Ben Fowler, were there at the protest, and I ran into him and some other people in the martial arts community, and he said he was being just real quiet and kind of, I was like, what's wrong? And I was like, why aren't you saying anything? And he's like, because this isn't for me. He's like, I'm here and I can't believe what's going on either, but he's like, I'm gonna keep showing up, because me showing up as a white person, it's showing them that this is not okay. Like, that these things, he's like, I'm trying to show people that I understand. Like, this isn't my fight, but I want to show up and show you guys that it's like there's support here. And I think that was like the biggest thing, is if I can't do anything and I can't make the change, I at least want my community to know that if there is a situation like that I see, like, I'm going to support you. I'm going to speak up this time. Like, I have remained quite if I've seen injustice, but like.
She cut out on me.
I know. I'm glad it's not my internet.
Yeah, she froze on me too. But I see what she's saying, and I think it's really kind of talking on the same thing that we're talking about. It's like it's really hard to figure out like what it is that you're ashamed of. So, she there? No, she cut off still. So, I talked about this earlier with somebody else. Like, for me, it's been really difficult to say, well, like, it almost feels like I shouldn't say like, oh, I'm a person of color. Like, I'm half Mexican. My mom is from Mexico. But like, even from her, like, I think it's hard to speak up and be and own that when it's always been a thing of like, you should be ashamed of it. Like even my mom, like, you talk to her, she's from Mexico, she's 5 feet tall, and she'll say, well, but my dad, his last name was Gafford, so we're really Scottish. And I'm like, no. And why are you ashamed to own that? And, I'm almost 40 and I'm getting to the point now where it's like, why have I been so backwards about this? So I think a lot of people, especially in Kentucky, are kind of going through that thing of like, I think it's time that we realize who we are, own it, and kind of step forward. And it's not just, it's a generational thing. I grew up in Southeast Kentucky, and that's kind of always how she's been. And she didn't teach us Spanish. That would have been wonderful. Like, it's almost like you didn't, you shouldn't own your culture and a part of who you are and try to be something else. And so now, I'm almost 40 and I'm like, I really need to own this and speak up and be heard. But, oh man, this is not going to hit some people right. And, it could affect my business because they'll think that I'm just, too active. But at the same time, like, I have to be like, this is a generational thing, and it has to stop somewhere, and it's.
I was going to say, one thing that I definitely have at the top of my agenda in terms of like training in this issue. I am not going to tolerate any foolishness, no foolishness. And it's going to happen. You know what I mean? People are going to say some stuff that's just totally out of pocket. And I'm going to be paying attention to how that's handled. I'm going to be paying attention to who does it, who's around, who ain't saying nothing, who does say something, the person above me, the owner, how they like that. I think is really what a lot of people have to kind of keep in mind. Like, all right, when people introduce these racist and prejudicial ideologies into this environment, when they're making jokes that ain't funny or appropriate,
like, it's just, I think it's important too that we're showing that the support is there. The support is there. You have the support. It's there. So stop being afraid and, step up. And I would think that would be the biggest message that I would like to promote as well. Like, sure, I'm afraid for my business. There's protests that are coming, but I'm more afraid for the long-term effects of what's going to happen, down the road. Like, this has been my whole life. And like I said, I'm almost 40 and I'm still, I don't want other kids growing up that way. I want them to come out of this system that we're in.
One more thing I do want to mention, and I don't know how long y'all have, and I apologize if it's going over. Good. But one thing that I think is very important, and every single person, and I'm talking to white people, need to be aware of this, especially in Kentucky. Every single act of crime, burglary, vandalism, whatever, is being tied to this movement, and it's not okay. It's absolutely not okay. When people say riots, when people say looting, when they say vandalism, most people immediately picture a Black person taking some stuff out of a store. And
that's not what it is.
People are hyper focusing on the Black people that are looting. And I see just as many videos and pictures of white people looting, but they're not posting that too. They need to be exceptionally mindful of the fact that, hey, when you're sharing these things, when you're pushing these things out, you're focusing on a minority, and that's being applied to the majority, and it's discrediting everything that we're trying to do. For whatever reason, people have forgotten that because of COVID-19, we have the highest employment rate since when? Like, I can't even count that far back. We have bailouts and there's a recession, and, there's people who would be committing crimes that were staying in the house because if we go outside, we're going to die. Well, guess what? They're outside now, committing the crimes they're going to be committing anyway. You know what I mean? Like, that's really, really frustrating. There are some people who are looting and stealing because they ain't got nothing.
Right.
You know, you got people filing for unemployment. I have families that have filed for unemployment back in March and are just now getting their money. It's June. Like, of course, they see an opportunity, they're going to take it. So I really, really hope just people do better.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your perspective and coming on and talking to us. I think it was very helpful. I have that link. I'm going to make sure that I share it on the the Bluegrass Women's Jiu-Jitsu Club page. I hope you have a good rest of the day with that beautiful boy you got.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you, seriously.
Well, thank you. Anytime. It was good to talk to you.
All right. Bye now.
All right, guys. I've lost Dani. So I'm here all by myself. Important conversations that I think we need to have. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of people I think are feeling desperate and kind of seeing a lot of things kind of happening around. But anyways, we kind of got back on the show today. I think more than anything, like I just really had a hard week. Some of this stuff has just been so fucking depressing to me, and you know, I get all teary-eyed when I talk about it. Like a lot of emotions kind of going into things. It gets overwhelming. So we've not done a show in a little bit because it's mostly like I haven't talked to Dani and haven't felt like really speaking. But anyways, I'm feeling good this week, and we're kind of things are coming along at our gym. And so tomorrow I'm going to try and talk to Emily Kinder Prince. She should be coming on the episode. She's got some important information that she wants to share with everybody. I think we're going to try and talk to Julia Salata probably on Sunday. She's been an Olympic qualifier, I think. I could be wrong, but I know that she's, an outstanding wrestler. She's just in Tennessee. She's very accessible for anybody who's like serious, females especially, but males as well, training wrestling. And, we have Lori Ramos, who is also qualified for the Olympic trials just in Louisville. So we have some real talent here in this area that I'm hoping that you guys will get some access to. It's there. Take advantage of the talent that's around. Like, you don't need to leave here to get good things, right? Which is kind of always the message of why we want to talk to women from this area. We have a lot of talent in this area. We need to appreciate it and showcase it and really show what we've got. Like, the grass is not always greener elsewhere, right? But anyways, I'm going to be talking to Julia this weekend, hopefully. And hopefully she's talking to her coach about maybe getting the Bluegrass Women's Jiu-Jitsu Club to travel to Tennessee and train down there. And, of course, like her specialty is wrestling. So I'd love to have her lead us through some really good wrestling for jiu-jitsu. If that becomes available, that'll be a very exciting announcement that we could hopefully, keeping my fingers crossed, hopefully that might be something that we can do in July. So you guys, send your good energy vibes, pray, whatever it is that you do, that we get something good to come along pretty soon. And then also we're going to be talking to Jessie Brown. She's another female brown belt here in Kentucky. She's at Four Seasons. And so she's going to come on and talk to us a little bit about what's going on. She was on one of our first episodes, if you guys remember, talking about everything that was going on. So we're going to bring her back on, kind of follow up with her. If there's anybody else you guys like to listen to, talk to, just shoot me a message. Everybody's voice needs to be heard, and we'll do the best that we can to kind of get the information out there. So let us know what you're thinking. Write me. I'm very open to what it is everybody has to say. And hopefully we can do this again tomorrow. For tuning in, guys. Now if I can end it. I hit the button, I swear.